Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Nate with the Patio Slave Podcast. I'm here with my buddies Tony and Anthony. How you guys doing today?
Good, man.
Good. Friday night. I'm ready to do this. Let's jump into this.
Heck yeah, episode 18 today. It's Friday night, like you guys are saying. If you guys want to check us out on the socials, we're on @PatioSlave for Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to send us an email, we're always accepting emails to kind of go through, do some shout outs, any kind of insight or stories you guys want us to talk about. You can just send us an email, patioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, we really appreciate everyone that's been kind of checking us out. We always check out all of our stats and everything through our analytics. So it's kind of cool to see us climbing the charts a little bit. But I'm going to throw it over to Tone over here to kind of go over the set list for tonight.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we have a quick shout out. We heard from Jesse on Twitter. He was checking out the Lance Mercer episode from a few episodes back, 13, I believe. So thanks, man. Appreciate you posting that and tagging us in there and letting people know you were listening to it. And glad you dug it. That was a lot of fun for us too. So being nerds of that time frame, we love that music. We love that time frame. So to have other people be into it too is really cool. Yeah, so we have a couple things we want to get to tonight, a couple album anniversaries. We like to kick it off with that. And then we had a few stories that kind of piqued our interest, a little bit about the some of those bigger bands that got some loans. We have a couple concerts that happened last week, on one that almost did happen, but then ended up not happening because he smartened up a little bit. And then that social distancing venue that we saw in the UK sprout up. That was kind of cool. And then we're going to go over maybe a couple of our, the first 4 months. We've had a lot happen, and we wanted to maybe give our own favorite memory so far. And then we might have a couple predictions for you going forward. So yeah, that's kind of the set list for right now. Who wants to lead off with the album anniversaries? Twan, you want to give us the Killswitch one?
Yeah. Killswitch debut full-length self-titled came out, July 4th? 4th of July, 2000. So I'll give my kind of history of this album. I'm trying to think, and I don't think I got into this album first. I think I got into Alive or Just Breathing, which came out in 2002, which was still with Jesse Leach. But I went back. I remember going back and listening to this because it has Temple from the Within, Rusted Embrace, and I liked it because it was a departure from kind of what else was popping at that time, which was nu metal. It was a little more metal than metalcore. I mean, by definition, I guess Killswitch is metalcore. But early on, it was more metal than a lot of the, breakdowny bands. I still dig this album. I mean, I can't remember the last time I listened to it, but in terms of their catalog, it's top 3 probably.
Yeah. And it's crazy. It's 20 years old. That's the thing that blows me away. I remember we went, the 3 of us were all at it, not together, but we were all at the same show in 2012, the 10-year anniversary for Alive or Just Breathing, which was at the State Theater, which is a venue that we talk about a lot here on this podcast, tiny little venue in Portland, Maine. And that was the first time I'd ever seen Killswitch, and it was they just brought Jesse back to be the front man. And it was awesome. It was just, I remember sitting in the balcony with you, Nate, and a mutual friend, and we were just it was face melting. It was this is badass. This is just cool. I was enjoying myself so much and had never seen them live. So that was one of those times of just oh yeah, it was kind of one of early on getting into metal, you guys getting me into metal. That's one of those times I point to this is awesome. I can totally see why people are into this stuff.
Yeah, no, I remember that show very vividly. That was a kick-ass show. Like you said, face melting gig. And interestingly enough, I had seen Killswitch Engage before, but it was with Howard Jones. I thought he was a great vocalist as well. He obviously left, and then Jesse came back, Jesse Leach, and that show was just so badass. But yeah, you know what? I was one of the radio fans because I actually discovered, I guess, or started to realize who Killswitch Engage was with the End of Heartache. So it's kind of
that's when they blew up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I kind of came on during that whole mainstream success, but I don't feel bad about it. It's a great album as well. So
I did the same thing, so don't feel bad about it.
My Curse was on the album after that.
But the End of Heartache is an awesome. That's the album that got me into them too. That album's great. Go listen to that song. That title track is badass.
Yep, that's a Donnie's Basement thing.
Yep, definitely.
The thing about Killswitch Live, so I've seen them. I saw them at Metal Hardcore Fest at the Worcester Palladium, either 03, 04, 05, one of those years. And I also saw Howard's old band, Blood Has Been Shed, on the same bill, which was kind of cool. This was before, it must have been 03 because it was before he joined Killswitch.
Yep.
But that State Theater show, I've seen probably hundreds of metal shows at this point, and they were the tightest band I've ever seen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, at that point, they've been doing it for a long time, and they're still at it. But they were so tight, and of course, with them, you get the light show. You know, it was an awesome show.
Yeah,
yeah, they were, I would say, pretty close to peak of their powers as far as live performance goes that night. I was totally blown away, and it was just bringing Jesse back too. So like, you're not just. It's not like they've been doing it with him forever. They had taken a little break and had Howard in the band for a while. So to come back with him and have that same kind of chemistry and be able to blow, maybe a metal convert away like myself, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think you're right, Tone. It's almost like the reinvigorated like reunion. It's like we were talking about Chili Peppers, like getting John back. They're gonna play differently because it's like kind of going back to like some old friends. Like, oh man, let's jam, And so it's brought to another level, or it's kind of like a flashback for everyone, including the band, to like really put everything into it. But they were great with Howard too, and Howard's a great vocalist, and he had energy on stage, and he's an amazing human being as well. So, but yeah, just proves that like people move on, but Jesse coming back into the fold, I agree with both of you guys. That was a show that really stood out for a metal gig for me, and it was obviously quite the bill with Shadows Fall opening. And in our hometown State Theater, it's just like, man, it's like one of those dream come true kind of things,
And I think they're still tight with Howard. I don't know I don't think there's a follow because he's in a new band. Was it Light the Torch? I think it is.
Something like that, yeah.
And they've opened for Killswitch, which is kind of cool to see because a lot of times it's like a big fallout. They don't have that relationship. It went sour, but they must have split amicably.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was amicable that he just wanted to maybe take a little break from the touring or who knows, because a lot of those metal bands are road warriors, right? I mean, they just play shows and they're constantly on stage and out night after night. And maybe he just wanted to take a little break from that before getting back into the music scene. So I don't think there was a negative fallout from that breakup.
Yeah, I've seen it too before. I know when Stone Sour toured. This is obviously before this split with Slipknot, but like Stone Sour toured with Murder Dolls, and Murder Dolls has Joey Jordison and the former drummer of Slipknot, and Stone Sour has Corey Taylor. So like I said, this is before the split, but I know that they were beefing for a long time. Anyone that's a fan of Slipknot knows that those guys kind of butt heads quite a bit. So, but they actually did some gigs together. I don't think it was actually. I take it back. I don't think it was a full tour, but I used to have the Kerrang magazine from the UK as like a subscription that get sent to me weekly. And I would always get like all this like European journalism on like what's going on in the metal scene. They're like super like into it over there. So I was like the Kick-Ass magazine. They would show like pictures of Joey Jordison with like Corey, and it's just like, yeah, they're beefing, but it's like nerdery, like TMZ, you know? Yeah. It's pretty cool.
It's like the
International Enquirer. The International.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. They probably butted heads on stage too when Joey was upside down in the drum thing, and Corey, he was just above Corey. Like that picture you sent us the other day, Nate.
Yeah,
that's that badass. Yeah,
I gotta get it signed by Joey. Yeah.
Yep. So that was cool. That was a cool album anniversary. Completely switching gears to another album anniversary. Came out, I want to say 18 years ago yesterday. I think it was July 9th. The Counting Crows Hard Candy, which obviously is a little different sounding than Killswitch Engage, right?
Polar opposite.
But we ride for that band too. I love that band. I've seen them, I think three or four times. And if you go back to episode 3, the first CD I ever owned was August and Everything After. So I'm coming right up on my annual August 1st. Got to play that album front to back a couple of weeks from now. So
nice. That's awesome.
I've never seen them, but in here's, I'm going to come clean. Like over the last like 15 years, if you asked me to go see them, I'd probably be like, no. But if you pull up their catalog, you would know 2/3, like me, like who maybe has only heard a few albums. I would know most of the set list. But I ride for this. I do ride for them now. And I ride for this album big time.
Yeah.
I think we chatted about it a little bit. Holiday in Spain near the end of the album into Big Yellow Taxi, the cover with, is it Vanessa Carlton?
Yeah, I think so.
Who's on that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like 2 bangers to end an album.
Mm-hmm.
But Holiday in Spain is an all-time song.
Yeah. That's crazy, Twan. In my head, I'm like, oh, man, do you have show regret from not seeing them like earlier?
Well, the thing is, because you could see them, I think, at like Casino Ballroom at some point. Like
I saw them at the Casino Ballroom.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I mean, are you kidding me? Yeah, what was I doing?
This is something that it's a topic we're going to come up with. I'll talk about this at length down the road, but there is a moment from that show, Casino Ballroom, with my dad. I want to say it was like 2009 or 2008. It was a while ago now. Top 3 concert moment for me. I'm not going to spoil it, but it was pretty fucking awesome. There's a point in that night that I'm just like, this is perfect. I don't know if I could beat this right now.
Nice. That's a euphoric feeling. I know that feeling very well. Yeah, I've seen them a bunch. In fact, one of the times I saw them, I met them at the same gig, and it wasn't by the tour bus or backstage. It was a meet and greet when I lived in New York City for their newest release at the time. I can't remember what it was actually, to be honest.
What was the year?
07.
It was, if it was 07, it was probably Saturday nights and Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
Which is an awesome album. That was 07, 08 time frame, I think.
Yeah, and it's Signs of the Times because I went to the gig and it was cool because it was in an Apple store. And they were doing the album release at the Apple store, and you'd get the album signed, but it was on like a piece of plastic that resembled the artwork of the album. And so it was basically like a piece of plastic you'd scan, and then you'd download the album for your iPod back in the day with like iTunes or whatever. And I was like, oh, this is kind of like interesting because I'm still getting something tangible, but it's not the album. It's just like a piece of plastic. And I actually have it in my collectibles and stuff. And
we're all vinyl heads here. We've got that new last couple of Sunday spins on our Instagram, which I know a lot of people have been into. But this is one of those albums. I'm like, I saw this yesterday on Twitter that it had birthday, and I'm like, maybe press it. Like, there's no vinyl pressing for this album.
Really?
There's the one before it. This Desert Life is like $350 because they haven't repressed that one. Wow. Obviously, Recovering the Satellites got a repress a couple of years ago, which is their second album, and that one before was one that was like $300-400 to find online. So, like, come on, guys, Record Store Day happens twice a year. Like, maybe throw a couple of bones for us vinyl nerds that want some more Counting Crows on vinyl.
Oh, man.
I am an OG with this band, though, because I got Recovering the Satellites from BMG Columbia House.
Oh, yeah.
Nice,
you buy one full price, you get like $100 for $1 or something, whatever it was. And then This Desert Life, and then was Hard Candy after that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, that's a possible 3-album run right there.
Oh, they might have been listed at
Spoiler
one point back
alert.
there. Yeah. They were almost brought up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen them a couple times. That first time I saw them was at Hampton Beach. I saw them at the pier outside in Portland, Maine, maybe 4 years ago, and then like two or 3 years ago, I saw them in Bangor. And every time they were awesome, and they played everything you'd want to hear for the most part. I mean, there's songs I'm a big fan, so I need more than I'm probably getting just because I'm a nerd. But played a lot of what you want to hear, which was really cool.
Yeah, it is kind of like a all-star set list in terms of.
There's so many songs,
so many good songs. I have to actually say though, I've seen them a bunch too, and I actually have seen them on an off night, like a bad night.
Happens.
And and I always try to we were talking about before we went on live, is like how I kind of like dissect things and get super deep into the why and so forth.
You don't do that.
Yeah, I've been like this ever since I was a kid. So is the fact that it was a free show for down here in San Diego, the Del Mar racetrack, during the summer. It's not happening this year, obviously, with COVID, but they would do this thing where you buy an admission to the racetrack for the horses, and it's only $10. And you get in, you get a free concert. So like they have a concert series, and it's headliners. Like, it's pretty dope. Like, and Counting Crows is one of the nights. And so you pay $10, and I don't even gamble on horse. I actually don't really care for that horse racing. I think it's kind of weird. I'm not going to go into that right now, but so I go in for the free show or the $10 show, and you pay like $5 for parking. You're seeing $15 to see the Counting Crows. I was like, this is badass. But they were fucking really bad that night. He was like, just like whining about like saying things on stage, like getting a little too like I don't know, not political, but just like it was taken away.
Well,
from
that happens though. I mean,
yeah, it happens. But I just remember being like, man, I'm getting like kind of bored watching this, which is sad because I've seen them a ton, like you're saying, Tone, where they're just on it and it's like killer. So,
well, they've been around for so long, and they do put out a good live show. I mean, they've put out a couple live albums that are great.
Yeah.
So that's too bad that you caught them on a bad night. But I mean, we're all human, right? Like, gonna have bad nights. I mean, I'm playing Hurt right now. So.
Yeah, no, it kind of goes back to the episode with our buddy Rob at CYY. Like he was saying, like, he's interviewed bands that some of the interviews were great and some were crappy, and it's the same band. It's like everyone has stuff going on in their life. So, clearly Adam Dirt's having a bad night. So whatever.
He does have the kind of voice that I feel like could have off nights.
Yeah.
And you could say that for Chino with the Deftones, like this, because he has a unique voice, right? And I feel like I could see that. But with that said, I'd go see. I would go see them.
You should
if we can ever get to live music again, which hopefully happens.
Put out positive vibes.
Yeah, we'll get back to live shows. It might not be till like 2022, but we'll get back to some stuff. Although there are places in the world that are doing that now. They've opened some of those social distancing venues in the UK. You guys saw that, Nate? I think you sent us that story, right? That's pretty cool. That's a thing that's happening.
Yeah, I kind of predicted it too. I feel like a little bit, but
a little bit,
a lot of it.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's there's a venue. It looks like it's a racetrack maybe or something like that where you are just away from fans. You're not up in the pit. You're not standing up against the stage. You're out in the crowd, and you're distanced from other concert goers. And it's a big enough venue that you can do that and have I don't know how many people they can hold because it depends on the stage size and what the sound is going to be like, but they're able to do something like that in the UK right now. So, and I think other places are doing stuff like that too. So that's pretty cool. I'd get in my car and go to a show that way.
Yeah, whatever it takes. I was going to say before you mentioned that, like, I'm not warming up to the idea, but I feel like I'm becoming a little desensitized to the idea of wearing a hazmat suit to a concert. But I'd rather it be in a natural setting, even if it is spaced out. And it's like the new normal. I guess we just kind of have to envision it happening. Like everything we're seeing, like that article, that company with a hazmat suit, it's all forward-thinking statements. And I'm talking in like stock exchange, like press release format now. But you know what I mean? None of this stuff's been proven yet. Yeah, not viable. But yeah, and whatever it takes, man. I'm like really, really missing shows. And today I was like going through my photos to create some content, and I was like, wow, like I used to go to a lot of shows. Like it's going to a lot of shows. So now that it just like is on pause, is like I didn't have like we talk about it a lot, but when you're seeing like a yearbook of photos like on my phone, I'm like, oh God, I was going to a show at one point once a week. This is insane. Like it was like part of my routine. So yeah, Europe's kind of ahead of us. They're also doing better with the whole COVID thing than we are.
Yeah, that's the big piece, right?
Yeah, in the UK, the visual that I saw, and it wasn't an actual photo, it was kind of a mock-up drawing. They had like raised platforms that looked like they could hold maybe 10 to 12 people. So I don't know how that would work, like if you have to book, like if you have to come at it with 12 people or you just get paired up with randos. But I like that way better than the car.
Yeah. You're outside.
Because the car, like, if you've ever been to a drive-in movie and you're in the back seat, you can't see shit.
Yeah.
So, like...
you don't see anything. Yeah, you're looking at the back of the seat in front of you. And
yeah, or you got to duck down. And maybe you can get out of your car, like, for the drive-in ones. But, like, I think if that is an option, like, I would probably go to a show like that. The only thing I'd be worried about is, like, the logistics of getting in and how they shuffle you in and out. And if you could do that by properly distancing, I'm sure they have that worked out. But the visual that I saw, and it was from a Consequence of Sound article, check that out. But it looks pretty cool. I mean, again, the economics of it, I don't know how many bodies they can fit in there, but that's for the band to figure out. You know what I mean? Or the promoter.
Yeah. Oh, the venue, right?
Venue, yeah. But I would go to that.
Yeah, I would too. I'd be, especially if... say it's that platform you were talking about and it holds 8 to 10 people and they're people that you've been around. right? Like
Right.
you're comfortable being around because you've been, maybe you live with them or they're friends of yours that you've all kind of been in the same area and can be, with like people that where they've been as far as COVID goes. I would do that for sure.
No
it
one's
becomes like
bumping into you. Like
Right.
you have
Yeah,
your
that's
own.
kind of nice
It's
too.
kind of like your own
Actually.
little VIP. I'm sure it'll be expensive though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
That's where my head went when you were talking to Twan, is the fact that it would kind of be like a VIP package. It'd be like, oh, this is my own little part of a terrace, I guess you'd say, like a little piece of land. And I was thinking, if it does become, or for us here in the States, like is drive-in only. Like I have a Jeep Wrangler, that's like my car. I'm like, man, I really want to trade in for like a Tesla, but the convertible aspect and like the somewhat like stadium seating I could make in like a Wrangler convertible is like actually conducive to like drive-in shows.
Yep.
So, but
There was the other things that we had talked about in the past were like the buying food and buying merch.
mhm.
Like you order it online and it gets brought to you. The article had a funny line that we all laughed at beforehand. That was like, bathroom services will be one way. Like, yeah, I'd hope so. I don't want that stuff coming back.
Yeah, please.
Well, because it said something else too. Like I think food would be one way. Like
Yep.
I assume they mean like contactless, where like you pre-order, they drop it off. It's one way. But
Yep.
the bathrooms, I don't understand that.
Yeah, that was like, what are you just gonna? I don't even know. I don't even want to speculate. Like,
Yeah, we'll leave that to everyone's imagination.
yeah, like maybe you have a bathroom at your platform. That would make sense, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, that big overhead for the venue.
Big overhead, right? Like how many porta potties you're gonna buy, and then you're putting people in small spaces, which maybe you don't necessarily want to do, and then you get somebody from there's people in the next to you, and theirs is being used, so they want to come over and use yours, and you're like, no, I don't know you, get out of here, and then you got fights, like you don't want that.
The only thing I can think of with toilets, so to quote the article verbatim, it says toilet facilities will be available using a one-way system. I bet it's like, I'm almost envisioning a car wash where you enter and the exit is like at the other end, so you don't pass the person. I don't know. You don't pass the people waiting in line.
Twan, you're in deep brain state right now, and you're exactly right. Because if you ever gone to, like, I think Chicago has them. I know San Francisco, New York City, somewhere has these public bathrooms where you walk in, you leave, as you exit, it's doing a self sanitation as an automated process. So that might be what's going on. So the amount of like infrastructure that's coming in through like futuristic business technology to convert or pivot to what's going to happen in the next 5 years going forward is very much automation. So not to go off track and talk about automation all of a sudden, but but yeah. And you know, what's funny is I was watching Joe Rogan's most recent episode with Hannibal Buress.
Yep.
And we had made another prediction. It's not really that, far-fetched, but the crowd engagement for like laughing, because he's a stand-up comedian, obviously, Joe Rogan, so he was talking about one of his friends, and he said like to laugh or clap, they were actually honking and flashing their high beams. Kind of
we called that.
Yeah. So yeah, check out that episode, you'll hear that snippet that I'm talking about. And plus I want to, as much as Joe Rogan's super popular, I always promote him because he's an inspiration for what we're doing here. So
yep.
What if you get a heckler though? They just honk their horn the whole set.
Yeah.
You see that guy over there in the Honda Civic? Kick him out.
Yeah. Someone putting their hazards on, that's like the thumbs down. Like, fuck this.
Yeah. That would be a new way for comedians to handle hecklers. They're like making fun of the guy's car.
Yeah.
That's got, you're on a donut? Get out of here.
Yeah, security has to like tow them out rather than usher them out.
Yeah, right. That's funny. That's a good call. No, that's what we had kind of envisioned when we talked about that a few episodes back, where they had the drive-in concerts in Europe. If you want the encore, you're just hammering on the horn, hoping for them to come back out.
What about concerts in the States? Isn't there a few that almost happened here or happened here?
There were a couple that did, right? Chase Rice a couple weeks ago in Tennessee with no masks in a prison or something with like 3,000 people. So I just don't understand that. Yeah. And then I think DaBaby, the rapper DaBaby, did one too that seemed to be a little less than, masked and people on top of each other a little more than they should be. We're not going to get super political. I always go back to the mask isn't a political statement. It's an IQ test. If you are out in public, you probably should be putting it on. And if you're not, that's fine. But you should put it on if you're out in, especially inside spaces. Like, you should be wearing a mask. It's just safe. Yeah.
Well, what got me about the Chase Rice show was his reaction or his quote after, which was basically like, and I'm paraphrasing, I think it was like, hey, the people just want to hear music or something. Wasn't it something like that?
Yeah, and we do.
Like,
but
the people deserve music
like
or something. I'm like,
not like
okay.
that, man.
Yeah, it just brings me back to the promoter for herd immunity. He's like, people need live music, man. It really touches you differently. And it's like, no, you're right, man. Maybe wait a few years. But yeah.
Have we heard any more about that herd immunity?
I haven't. I've seen nothing. I wonder if that's, I mean, that was next weekend, isn't it? July 17th, right? 16, 17. That's next weekend.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know if it's still happening or what, but I mean, I know they got rid of the name, but.
Yeah.
I just have like a visual in my head, and it might not be fair, but I have a visual in my head of just like a gathering of the juggalos at that.
Yeah, that's probably not fair, but I understand the vision because I also have one similar to that.
Oh man. Any fans out there are going to like be super haters now, but at the same time, I've seen footage, and I actually have a friend that went to that festival and he sent me photos, and it was like, yeah, it looked pretty like.
They're an interesting group.
DIY. Well, that festival in particular was like DIY, but not in a good way. It was like, oh man, that looks like not fun.
They're an interesting group. I'm not gonna shit on the Juggalos per se, but they're definitely because I've read stuff where they're like a very nice and welcoming group of people too.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not knocking them per se. It's just it's an interesting. They're like the land of misfit toys, right? And they probably would agree with that statement. I've
actually seen them at the State Theater. And the only reason I went is I actually went because it was a free show. I remember it was a free ticket. My buddy Zach gave me a ticket. And I went and I was like, this is weird. And I got fucking soaked in like
Fago.
Fago. Yeah. And I was like, this is fucking bullshit. Yeah. So I mean, like, not being a fan and then getting soaked in like soda is like, I don't even drink soda. So I was like, what the fuck is this shit? I wasn't happy. But goes to show that I will check out anything, you know?
Yeah, I would have gone to that too, honestly, especially for free. Yeah. It's a life experience. I mean, when else? I've never been doused in Fago.
I have seen YouTube footage of gathering of the Juggalos, and like people are like, one thing I've always said like in my life is never kill anyone's excitement. Like that's like the worst thing you can do is kill someone's excitement, and people get excited for that gathering, and it's genuine. They obviously they get into it with the face paint and all that shit, but herd immunity. Remind me of it, but
no, it's an interesting group, and you know, good for them for finding a place that they're comfortable and with people that like the same stuff. I mean, we do that here, right? So
yeah.
Well, what about tours? What about tours that were supposed to happen for like bigger bands? You know what I mean? Like they had.
Oh yeah. Like, are you segueing? I think you're segueing.
I was absolutely segueing.
Tell us a little bit more, Nate.
Yeah, PPP Loans going to big headliner bands. Who was on that list? I know.
Oh my goodness.
Eagles,
Pearl Jam.
Slipknot, Pearl Jam, Green Day, Tool, Weezer.
You name it, right? Anybody that's a big entity that probably had a big summer tour definitely had some help.
Yeah.
I have thoughts, but I'll let you guys go first.
From what I read, a lot of that money was going to the below the line people, which is obviously what it was intended for, right? Like, I don't think Eddie Vedder was saying, "Give me the money." Like, that's not what's happening there. Yeah. You're trying to take care of the people that they take out on tour with them. That's their livelihood. You know, the people, the stagehands, and the sound people, and the merch people, and those bands are big business. And if there's no summer tour where they probably make the majority of their money, those people are hard up. You know, just like a lot of people are right now with the COVID situation. So I'm all for that, so that those people don't, you know, have to suffer through not having, you know, meals.
Yeah, no, you nailed it on the head. And I can confirm that is true because I've seen where these funds are going. I've kind of done some homework in terms of the PPP loans and how it all kind of goes down. But because I'm such a Pearl Jam fan, the whole Pearl Jam fan base is pretty like dialed with like their whole brand, I guess you'd say. I know like we all use that name kind of like as a backup. But Pearl Jam has a whole corporation. They have a fleet. They have a stagehand, a crew. Their sound person's been with them since the early '90s. So yeah, these are like people's like livelihoods. It is like a legitimate business. Pearl Jam, I kind of equate to like Patagonia. That's very much true to like, let's keep this fair. Let's keep people employed. If something happens, let's take care of them. It's like a private company that like is doing everything in the name of good faith and humanity. So Pearl Jam, like that's why like the fan base is so rabid. It's like, wow, this is like kind of is the epitome of like good energy. So yeah, I can see that being the case. It's not really like, oh, we're rich and now we can just like not have to offload this expense internally. We can just get it as a government handout or so forth. But it's just not the case. And because of Pearl Jam, I'm able to see that transparency. Like, okay, no, like this is so like their sound person that's been there since '91 can like still raise her daughter and not have to be like on unemployment or something.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty crazy, man.
So a couple thoughts. One, actually, this is a future segment idea that I just thought of, Nate. When you kind of equated Pearl Jam and Patagonia, we should do a if bands were companies or brands.
Oh,
Pearl
nice.
Jam equals Patagonia is perfect.
It really is.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the crunchy, ethical,
dad rock,
grassroots, etc.
I mean, the whole Gigaton album was the
sustainability.
About, right. Trying to fight off global warming, stuff like that.
Yeah, read any article quotes for Eddie Vedder, and you'll just be like, "Wow, this guy is a fucking like idol when it comes to environmentalism." So yeah, totally.
Actually, do you see the video that was going viral with him this week?
Yeah, Theo Espin like challenge.
What's that?
The Theo Espin challenge.
Yeah, he was on a jet ski and he hit a baseball.
Yeah.
Oh, I did see that. Actually, you're right. I did see
that. Yeah, it was awesome. I was like, that's not him. Who is that?
Yeah,
it was him.
I saw that on Twitter yesterday. Sean Casey, who is a former Major League Baseball player, was like critiquing his stance. It was awesome.
Stay for the tangents.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, good find. He's a huge sports fan, huge sports fan, and he's also a surfer born in San Diego. So yeah, he's got like the bounds and like the stance down, which is pretty sweet.
I'm a little surprised that why the Chicago fandom? Like he's a big Cubs fan, right? He's from San Diego, but why isn't he a Padres fan?
I think he's a fan of all teams, but he grew up in Chicago and in Encinitas.
That makes sense. So that's why he's a big Cubs fan. Yeah.
Yep. So I guess. Well, I'm not gonna say I guess. I know that his like sport fandom was when he was in Chicago, but he was obviously a fan of San Diego. But in that video, he's actually wearing a Boston Red Sox helmet, so he's a fan of all sports or all teams. Yeah.
Well, I'm a Sox fan, so cool.
Yeah.
Twan, you're a Yanks fan, so you're anti.
Yeah.
Anti what? Anti steroids?
Well, I mean, don't even get me started. That's a different podcast for a different group of people.
A-Rod? Fuck. You signed the checks, man. You signed the fucking checks.
We're going to have a spin-off Audio Slave podcast about sports.
We'll just do sports nerd stuff. Yeah.
Sports Slave.
We could do some of that for sure.
Let's get Bill Simmons on, man.
Yeah, Bill, if you're listening, he's a music nerd. He talked to us about
Pearl Jam.
Yep.
He's buddies with Ed. Yeah.
Yep. No, that was so. Yeah, getting back to the PPP loan. I mean, there's a tangent and a half, right? How did we get here?
PJ. Anytime PJ's on,
a tangent within a tangent.
Yeah, so many tangents. But yeah, getting back to the PPP loan, I'm on board because of where I think the money's going now. It's some of it's getting funneled into something else. I mean, who knows? I'm not going to go through all their finances with a fine-tooth comb, right? But I get taking care of your people, and if there's some government assistance for that, then it makes sense because they had to give back all that money for their tours this summer. A lot of them got rescheduled, but they had to give back a lot of that money, so that makes sense.
So this is gonna So when I read that, I kind of fell for like the clickbait where it like all the wording of the headlines implied that that like Eddie Vedder and Corey Taylor are getting like a bonus stimulus check, which is not the case. So I'm going to ask what might be a dumb question. Do they have to pay it back? Is it a grant or is it a true loan in the loan sense?
I think it's a loan.
Okay, this is obviously anyone that has a problem with this doesn't understand the music industry in that when you go see a band, like you don't like, a lot of people just think it's like 5 guys on stage, when if you peel back the curtain, there's like an entourage of 100 people. So yeah, this makes sense. I mean, do I expect Eddie Vedder to roll out his checkbook to bail out his team? I mean, no. Much like a CEO of a company, even though they do make more, are they, do they own all the burden? You could argue that, but
yes and no, though. I mean, they're earning. Those people are earning their money because of who they are too. And I'm not pro CEO per se. I'm pretty liberal as far as that stuff goes, and want people to be taken care of when they can be. But yeah, it makes sense to me, especially if they're okay. All these tours get scheduled again for next summer, and they can give some of that money back to the government. That's what's going to happen. I mean, it is a loan. Now, if it doesn't happen that way, I'm sure some of this is written as it might be forgiven, and you may not have to pay it back. But where those big bands are concerned, they'll get back on tour at some point, and they'll be able to make their money again. And they're just trying to keep their people whole in the moment.
Yeah, two things come to mind. In terms of a CEO doing it on his own bank account and so forth, that is rare. It's rare because it's not sustainable, because it just compounds. Like, oh, you didn't take care of me though. Oh shit, and you're writing your life away basically. But I have seen that happen. Kind of circling back to the Patagonia thing. There's a factory, I believe it's in Massachusetts, that at one point provided all the Polar Tech fleece jackets to LL Bean, North Face, all these companies where it was like the fleece jackets that were super huge in the 90s. They had a fire and burned down their factory, sadly. And he felt so bad for his staff that he ended up paying them out of his own checkbook.
Wow.
And I don't know where it eventually went, but it was, it was pretty honorable. But at the same time, I'm like, shoot, dude, like that only goes so far. Like, if you're not going to get that repaid, or like, and as much as you're a good person, I thought it was like one of the most like honorable things like I've ever read. But at the same time, I'm like, shoot, dude, eventually you just run dry, and like there's someone you like left out that's like, just a little part of separation where they're like somewhat connected to the company, where like someone's like now like, I don't know, suing you, but like kind of like, hey, how come I didn't get hooked up? Yeah. So
it's a double-edged sword. Yeah, it's hard to like take that burden on and not leave somebody out in the cold.
Yeah, it just the way it goes. Yeah. The other part of it is I'm thinking these loans, like you said, if they are either going to be forgiven, or B, there's going to be a mass audit, and that audit will kind of have some liability on like, oh, okay, you took the loan, but you actually didn't put it to its correct use, and therefore you now owe this money and in back taxes. I see that happening with a lot of situations. I think I had mentioned that I had a time period where it was just a week where I got furloughed, and then I got unemployment, and I didn't cash the check. So I had like this stack of money just sitting in my room, and I'm like, try to call the California unemployment, like, hey, I was only like laid off for a week because it was the whole COVID nonsense, but like I'm actually like employed, so I don't need this money. And I'm reading articles all over the place where it's happening because they're so overwhelmed. So it's like people that cash those checks, unlike me that didn't, are going to have to like owe that in back taxes or back payment. And because of an audit, I think it's just like, the government doesn't just hand out money and forgive it all the time. So if it's at least going to be audited, it'd be like, all right, well, this went to good use and this did not.
So cash it and give it to a charity, bro.
I could. Yeah.
Then you can write it off and they can't come after you.
That's a good call. Yeah, I wish this wasn't documented.
Damn it. Why'd you do that to yourself?
There's too much overhead with that. You'll never see an audit.
Yeah, there's way too many people that are. Yeah, you're right. There's so much going on with that. It's going to be hard for them to audit all of those payments.
Because it takes bodies to do that, and then it takes bodies to oversee that audit, and then there's too many inside heads that benefited. And
totally.
Yeah. No, that's another conversation for another time.
So I've got a name for this episode already.
Yeah.
The tangent episode.
Ooh, it's nice though.
I know. I love it. Actually, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those, that all makes sense to me as far as the PPP stuff goes right now. And now down the road, who knows? And hopefully we're back to getting out to shows and those people can be made back to work and all that fun stuff.
Actually, can we, before we get into our favorite memories so far from this podcast, can we do a callback to someone who was going to have a concert but backed out last minute last week?
Yes, we forgot about that one.
And who was it?
Vanilla Ice.
Ooh.
In Texas, of all places, which is one of the hot spots right now.
Yeah.
Did you see his response after?
I didn't realize it was that bad.
I didn't realize COVID was that bad.
Ooh. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
vanilla.
Like we said, it's on brand, but it's like that kind of like I want to just straight up say that kind of oversight is a never-ending lawsuit. So you better pay attention, buddy.
Yeah, totally. Like, it doesn't make sense to even think about doing that, especially where they were going to do it. It was going to be in a place that was a hotspot right now. And I'm glad that vanilla cooler ice heads prevailed and we didn't do it. It just doesn't make sense. He had, smarter than a lot of people at that point, at least.
Can I ask the obvious question? Who in 2020 is going to a Vanilla Ice concert?
I knew you were going with that as soon as you said that.
I know he played the Asylum at one point when we were in high school, or maybe it was after.
Well,
when he was in his metal phase?
Yeah, when he was in his...
I can't remember. But I remember I had an invite to go, and I was like, nah.
Can I answer the obvious question?
Yeah.
We would go see him.
So he did he was part of like a I Love the 90s tour last year, I think, which was like, I think it was him, Montel Jordan, Tone Loc. And like when you
sounds fire.
Yeah, when you package like a group like that, and if the ticket's reasonable, you might get me off the couch. But if it's just him, I'm not going to that.
No, probably not. Same. But I'm just joking. Like if somebody were like, hey, he's playing this tiny venue down the road from where you live and it's $10 and you get nothing else going on, I might go see see Ice Baby and then bounce.
Having a Roni.
Yeah, I might go see Having a Roni and then take off. Yeah. So Vanilla Ice, thank you for not having a concert in Texas last week.
Hey, shout out to our listener Mike in Texas. He probably would have gone.
Mike definitely would have gone. He would have had to wipe everything down first, but he would have gone.
It's crazy that Texas is a hot spot because kind of circling back to the whole Joe Rogan thing, or Joe Rogan in general, is he had done 2 stand-up shows last month. I want to say like 3 weeks ago. And on that recent episode I'm talking about with Hannibal Buress, he had mentioned that he did 2 gigs in Texas, and he went out and he said in the episode, so many teasers, but that everyone in the crowd was wearing a mask. So that was part of the compliance. And that the first night was super weird and freaky. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And the first show was like, oh, this is gonna be cool. Like, it was a cool like stand-up show. And then the second night was kind of like crazy. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. And then now he's like, I don't think I'm going to do it until like it's super safe to do it. In other words, he has a little remorse. Yeah. So.
Chappelle did one in his backyard, right? Pretty much.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys see that on YouTube? Dave
No,
Chappelle.
I missed that.
It was what was it called? 846. It was very politically charged. It wasn't super funny, but it was. I watched it. I would urge people to watch it because it was very well done. But they did tests and they masked people and they. But it was short. It was like 28 minutes, and they all, I don't know who knows what they paid, but they all rolled into his backyard, distanced, and he came out and kind of ranted a little bit for a half an hour, but it was good. I was moved by it. It was I love Chappelle. I mean, I've seen him once. I think he's funny as hell. I loved his show, obviously back 15, 20 years ago, but it was worth your time.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Erykah Badu, Common.
Oh, were they there too? I didn't realize. I only saw his set.
Talib Kweli.
Yep, he's Boys of Talib. That makes sense.
Questlove, John Hamm randomly.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Quite the show. That was better than I thought then, because it sounded like he was short and people were maybe a little upset by the brevity of his set. But there's obviously some racially charged stuff as far as what's going on in the world. Stemming from the incident in Minneapolis a couple weeks back. So, but it was really well done, I thought.
So that stand-up show was the Tangent stand-up show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
No. With all those randos.
We just we love tangents. It's what we do, man. This is the tangent episode. You guys have
I have a tangent.
We'll do it.
One of my favorite quotes from Dave Chappelle is actually, so it's a tangent of a tangent and it's a quote of a quote.
Nice.
Is Dave Chappelle quoting Kanye West, who is like recording in a studio, and then Dave Chappelle was in the room in the recording studio at the time, and Kanye gets on the phone, and I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, he talks to, I think, I don't know, Jay-Z or someone, and then he gets off the phone. Everyone's like, who was it? Oh, it's something like, it's my buddy. I'm Kanye. I do dope shit. My life's dope, or something like that.
I've heard that before. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I just butchered that so bad, but it just made me think. It just made me think that he like just recently said that he's gonna try to be president of the United States of America.
Kanye for 2020 vision, baby.
Yeah.
Well, that quote, Nate, is a meme in nowadays.
Yeah.
Like you see that.
Yeah.
I'm Kanye. Yep. I do dope shit.
Yeah. I can't remember what it is for quote, and I kind of just threw it out there because it just came to my brain because he's all of a sudden tweeted that he wants to be president, and I'm like, the fact that 2020 is so royally fucked up.
Yeah,
I'm swearing because I have to emphasize how fucked up it is that Kanye is going to run for president, and
he's not running for president.
I know
it's
you think
publicity stunt.
The thing is, the more and I know
he would have to be a write-in in all kinds of states. Again, not to get too into the weeds politically, but he's missed so many deadlines as far as that goes. It would have to be a write-in. It's not going to happen, dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's just messing with you to mess with you.
And I agree, but I don't agree at the same time because it's such a weird year that he could actually do it and like not be viable in a few states except for a write-in, and other states actually be viable. And this would be the year to do it because it's just so whack. I don't think he has a chance of winning, but I feel like he would just do it and be like, "Oh wow, this guy's actually doing this. He's actually going to be in the debate."
He would have a indirect impact, likely.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, and I don't want to get I don't want to get too politically charged on that, there. But yeah, but you know what would be funny? It wouldn't be. It's sad, funny / sad. It's Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Kanye West debate.
Oh my God, be a train wreck.
So that's
I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm gonna stop you right there. Beyonce.
Yeah. Joe, I'm gonna stop you right there.
I'm gonna let you finish. Joe Obama had the best quote of all time.
Yeah. I do dope shit. I'm Kanye. All right, actually, good tangent, Nate.
He did.
That was good.
He received loans too. Kanye.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he has a huge business, that the Yeezy product, all that fashion, if you call it fashion stuff that he does.
It's huge. It's actually it's huge, man. That's
people,
actually how
I don't know why people buy those shoes, man. Those are ridiculous.
That's how he got out of debt. He was like super
They look
in debt.
like Crocs.
Yeah. Bad.
Oh, the athletic ones. Yeah.
Oh my God, they're terrible. Like I buy a Croc for $20. Hey, good for him, man. He's making his way in the world. He always has. Do we want to get into our kind of our favorite memories so far from the first 4 months?
Yeah.
Who wants to go first? I'll go first. I'll do it. I'll go first. My favorite moment so far has got to be how cool Greg Bergdorf was, and how easy a conversation that was for three guys who hadn't done a ton of interviewing at that point. Yeah. And just, it was laid back. It felt great. It was a good time. We got all kinds of cool stories about a band we were all really fond of. Mm-hmm. That was probably so far. And there's been a ton of highlights, but I don't want to step on too many of them because you guys will have them too. But that right now, I think that's the leader in the clubhouse for me, is just how just down to earth and chill that whole night was. It was a lot of fun. It just didn't feel real in the moment. And even looking back on it now, I'm like, that did happen. That's really cool. And I love that we have it recorded and we can listen to it again.
Yeah,
that's a really good pull.
Yeah, I think no, I'm with you, and actually that was probably going to be mine. When I can pivot to another one for sure, but the reason he came to mind is he kind of took a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was kind of when we were just getting started, maybe first 8 episodes in.
Yep.
He doesn't. There's no brand name. Not that there is now, but there's no brand name. He doesn't know who we are. He's willing to come on. And it was really cool. He opened up, and he just a cool guy. And I think that goes a long way. Is
definitely
when you're not too cool for school, when you're willing to relive those memories and really appreciate fans. He's just a cool dude.
Yeah, and he talked to us like we were fans, but he also talked to us like we were a viable at that point podcast, and we were very green as far as interviews go. I know, Twan, you'd done a bunch back in the day, but it had been a while for you, so you were kind of dusting that talent off.
Totally.
I had never really done it. Nate, you've been around it a little bit more for being in the industry a little bit here and there in New York, and then again back home here with our friends in the radio business from last week, Rob. But it was just a cool vibe. Like I smile thinking about how much fun that night was.
Oh man, I was just thinking, because the interview experience I have has always been just casual fan, and the stories that I have that I think Rob was alluding to in the last episode and that you guys know of, where it's like I'm either, hanging with an artist or whatever, or backstage or whatever, and a lot of it's like I'm not supposed to be there, and I somehow made it back there. It's very like almost famous-esque. So like my like quote interviews were very like, this isn't actually like, I'm not actually an industry guy. I'm just like a fan that just wants to get some insight. So yeah, the Greg thing was cool because he was so nice. And before we all went on air, me and him had a little correspondence, and I just called him just to kind of like run him through the drill. Like, this is like, we're just getting started. This is how it is. And as soon as we started talking, it's he mentioned, or the way we were flowing was what I get from a lot of friends like you guys, or anyone that, whether I haven't seen them in 7 years and we jump on a call, all of a sudden I get the same kind of response, and it actually makes me really happy. I feel like, I'm not trying to sound cocky, but it's one of those things that like makes me feel good about myself. It's like people are like, dude, I haven't talked to you in like 8 years, and like we just jumped on the phone, and it's like nothing. We're just like leaving, like kind of starting where we left off. I'm like, oh, dude, that's awesome.
It's always fun to be able to do that with people, and we all have friends like that where you maybe don't see them for 8 or 9 years or however long, and then you just fall right back into your patterns.
And that's what it felt like with Greg. Like we were just chatting, and within the first 5 minutes, me and him are just like laughing. And he's like a very giggly guy. You can hear it in the episode.
Oh yeah.
But we're both just like shooting the shit, and like we went from like, hey man, thanks for doing this. Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, it's a little small podcast, and then like within like 7 minutes, we're like giggling about like what's going on in the world and all this cool stuff. I'm like, nice, this guy's gonna be awesome.
Yep.
So and like kind of the mystique behind it, that like I thought like, oh man, what is it like to just like reach out to someone and like have them come on my random podcast? But yeah, I feel like if we were all hanging out with Greg in person, it'd be like, oh dude, like I feel like I know you all of a sudden, even though we just like chatted for like an hour.
It's funny you say that. And I think I've mentioned it here, but I know I've mentioned it to you guys. My regular job, our national convention, was supposed to be in Atlanta this year, and he lives outside of that city. Oh, yeah. And my plan, if we were able to go, was to take him out to dinner as a thank you for obviously going on with us. So that offer is going to happen at some point. I'm going to get to Atlanta, and I will definitely hit him up. So, sweet. And Greg, we definitely still want to have you on for the 3-album run segment when we run that one back. So it will happen again.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, there's the quote that's basically, pay attention to how people treat others that can't do anything for them. And he's a perfect example of that. Because at the time, I mean, I think he was our second interview, just getting started, and he was still willing to come on and still willing to chat. Like, that was pretty cool. And I'm still curious about what his 3-album runs are, because
we're gonna get him.
He's pretty versatile with his interests. Like obviously coming from the Zebrahead scene, but also he's into a lot of. I mean, he's in a jazz trio, right?
And they sound great. Have you listened? I've listened to him a little bit. They sound great.
Yeah, I did when he came on. After that, I checked him out.
Yep.
Was it the Bourbon Brothers?
The Bourbon, the Bourbon Brothers. Yep.
Bourbon Brothers. Nate, what's your what's your favorite memory so far? The last 3 or 4 months.
I just have to say one more thing on that one is when we interviewed him, I remember we were so green, but I remember thinking like he was so good and giving us such amazing backstory or insight on his background that it felt like a dream come true for me, because it was like I was such a huge fan of Behind the Music. Like I love that show to death. And I think I've seen every episode of Behind the Music like 4 times on each episode alone. So I like super geeked out on it. So I felt like, nice, we're really like doing this. So it was like one of those like I made it moments. So like it's the nerdery squared, because like we're getting insight on them on like when they had their moment of like, I think this is going to happen. That's like the episode that I think I was like, oh, this is actually going to happen. This is cool. Like we're actually fucking doing this. This is rad.
Yep.
And that was like so early on. So now like we're all like, hustling, and it's like
we're still pretty early on.
Yeah, it's a labor of love. It's a labor of love.
But I mean, the amount that I think if you've stuck with us from the beginning to now, you can tell that we've turned the corner a little bit, and we definitely have a plan in place as far as how we want to handle this stuff. So we're pretty excited about what's coming up in the future.
Yeah. But yeah, to kind of go off that, I kind of wrote down 3 that I want to almost say are tied. I know this is like a little too crazy, but
Just give us one, man.
well, I'm gonna start with Lance because I'm obviously such a Pearl Jam and grunge fan that it was like to like all of a sudden be in a space where if we're thinking about it in the context of like us 3 plus a guest are just hanging out in a bar drinking beers talking music, it was like, wow, dude, nice to meet you. Tell me some stories about what it was like back in the day, and just like completely transporting to that spot because he went so granular where it was like, wow, man, I feel like if like we had a visual for this, like we could like make it a really cool documentary. Like we're in this sweaty club right now and watching Alice in Chains rip it up like 1990. This is really cool. And like his way of telling the stories with the photographs that are mostly black and white was like, oh, this is like so old school, but so cool and so relatable because we were like, and I'm speaking, on behalf of myself right now, like really getting into music early 90s. So like early middle school, like it was for me, like all early 90s stuff. That was like what I was into. And I was like, that was like my intro to music. And then I went back to Beatles and like forward to whatever, but it kind of started from grunge. And that's why that is such a deep connection for me. So to hear him like go deep and actually ask questions that similar to Greg from Zebrahead, like questions that I have like just been thinking about my whole life, and to actually ask directly and get some kind of answer, but also backstory to really fill in the colors was like, holy crap, this is like really, really interesting. And like, this is too bad it's just one interview because there's so many stories. Like if we just brought up a slide of photos, we could get like 45 minutes on each photo. So yeah, I would say that one for me right now is really standing out.
Yeah, you nailed like here's the thing. For me, when we interview people at the end of the day, like we want to interview people that we're interested that we find interesting. And a lot of it is, hey, I wasn't around for this time frame or that tour or while this band was active. Transport me back and like help me visually fill in the blanks. And Lance did that. Like,
yeah,
you felt like you would it scratched that itch. It's like the epitome of nerdery where you're like, I was 7 when that happened. Like, help me the best you can fill in the blanks, that visual. And he did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. That one felt that conversation, I think you guys would probably agree, felt the most natural as far as how we were comfortable in the interview space. I think we would do that with other people too going forward, but in where we'd had a couple under our belt, we were able to kind of, and we were such nerds of the subject matter. It was very easy for us to just
totally
kind of tangent and riff and talk about different things. And Lance is dynamic as far as that stuff goes too. So hearing his stories about being there and being part of an era that it's very near and dear to, I know, Nate's heart and definitely mine too, for, maybe not quite as near and dear for me as it is for you, Nate, but I know me and Twan both love that stuff too. I mean, it was formative stuff for us. So to hear those stories and like to see the photo of Eddie hanging and to have him explain how that all took place. And then like Twan to see the basketball characters, like that part was cool. That stuff was really, really awesome. And it felt like like we kind of figured something out.
Like the segment that I think sums up like kind of our interest in music was like when Lance said, hey, I knew the exact point in the exact song where Eddie would jump into the crowd, and I timed it. Yeah. It's like I'm like I felt like the visual in my head. I was like I was at that show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is pretty rad.
That's awesome, actually, because I do that when I take photos. Tone, when you were talking about like, you know what, I shouldn't be this guy with my cell phone, but like since we know the songs so well, like you'll know when it's about to go, the guitar's about to go into distortion. Everyone's going to either a jump or it's going to be some kind of like surreal like emotion that's just going to explode. So you get that photo because you just know the song so well, so you snap it at that time. But yeah, the Lance thing, like, and you put it in a perfect frame, guys, is like I was so young then. So if I was like old enough to digest it the way I comprehend things now, I wouldn't even be asking these questions. Or maybe I still would, but I would be able to understand it a little bit easier because I was actually there. So if I was like 17, 16, 17, the way we were going to shows in our heyday, during like Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden in Seattle, like that was our local scene instead of like State Theater, Asylum, Portland, Maine. Like we would just be seeing that stuff, and Lance would be the guy that like the photographer that like we also nerd out with at the merch booth. Like, nice, dude, you get some good shots. Yeah, it was awesome. Cool. But it's Lance, that like sent photos to like Rolling Stone to get published in a publication worldwide.
Time magazine, right?
Yeah.
Like he took the same photo and had the same photo.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that one, it gave me chills. I mean, especially when I held up the poster that he shot.
I know, right?
I was like, I had this poster in my bedroom in middle school, like in 6th grade. And it got so gnarly from my wall because I had a weird wall where it had like rivets in it.
You did have a weird wall.
Yeah, it was like it was a weird panel thing.
This is pre-Treehouse.
So I bought a new one that's like in perfect condition. But I just remember being like I remember even being in 6th grade looking at the copyright, Pearl Jam, Epic Records, and then photographer credit like Lance Mercer. I'm like, cool. So I always knew that name. And so like to go fast forward, like I'm 36 now, I'm interviewing Lance Mercer from like that poster that I saw as a nerd that like, I don't even think anyone, well, a lot of people did, but not everyone's looking at that copyright Epic Records.
No. Right.
Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah.
That's the nerdery that we bring to it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Yeah.
And I've met a lot of the guys from PJ too. So, there's both sides of that coin.
Oh, have you?
There's
met the guys from PJ.
Yeah, so there's the talent aspect and there's the photography. So yeah, it's very Patio Slave-esque where it's like, yeah, it's the artist, it's also the photographer, it's also the journalist.
Well, we want all of it, right? We want to talk to the photographer, we want to talk to the promoter, we want to talk to the stagehand, we want to talk to all those people because they are living it from a different viewpoint. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to hear, what that viewpoint was like for those people, and maybe in around a band or a concert or a time frame that maybe we weren't at, or we were at, but we didn't see it from their viewpoint. Yeah.
And there's just so many stories. Like we're a distillation of everything nerdery, and we're putting that puzzle together in one kind of cohesive place for the world to see. I feel like that's very
definitely cocky. Yeah. No, but I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to tell that story around the stuff that we were into. So, and you're going to hear that, going forward. We're just going to keep trying to plug away at different aspects of the music world that we want to know about and want to hear from those people what it was like to be in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's really because no one else is doing it. So we have to do it. So
yeah, exactly. We've always talked about it in person, right? Or via text or whatever. Might as well put it out there to the world to see if they like it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Someone's got to do it.
All right, Tuan, what was your favorite?
So real quick,
so far,
since this is the tangent episode, Nate, when you talked about the Epic Records copyright Lance Mercer, and when I said only us nerds would notice that, I had a conversation with my dad this week, and he does listen to this podcast. He's checked out a few episodes, and
what's up, Slick?
His example of music nerdery, because he's a music nerd. That's really where I got it from. Is when he's in a record store, he's a big Def Leppard and the Outfield fan. He'll go to the sections of the CD rack, and he'll put the Def Leppard CDs that are probably in the back of the row. He'll put it in the front, so it has more eyeballs on it and better chance of selling. So he's responsible for the sound scan for Def Leppard and the Outfield. Anyway,
you told us that story this week, and I was like, dude, I've done that.
It's so awesome. It's so awesome because it's in terms of, I'm trying to use it as a parallel right now, because the brands that I kind of champion and highlight, non-music related, to kind of give it some context, are brands that are bands and brands that are, and I hate to sound too granola. This is probably side effect of moving to California. Is I'll really highlight brands that are USDA organic and or fair trade, more fair trade actually more than anything, and non-GMO certified, because it takes a lot to get to that, and I know what seed to sale takes. So I know there's a lot of politics that go along with it as well, but I always showcase those. So I feel a lot of the times when people ask me what do I use for supplements and that stuff, I'll showcase actual brands, and it's moving it to the front. Yeah, fuck that shit. No, you want this. And so it's what you're saying with your dad, Def Leppard should be the front, Outfield should be the front. You know what I mean? Outfield is one of the best bands of all time, and a lot of people don't even know who they are. So
So when you're in Whole Foods, you put the Grandy Oats granola in front of the Kashi brand. Is that what
Yep.
you're saying?
I do some weird front. I think the terminology is front and face in retail. Yeah, I'll kind of like give them a little heads up. And like, oh, that one's
Nate, why are you working for Whole Foods for free, bro?
dude, it's nonstop, man. I don't stop. I dream about shit in my sleep and then execute.
Babe,
the
I've
next
got to
day.
hit this aisle real quick. Hang on. Nate, I just want to go home and make dinner. No. I got to go put these, those Grandy Oats out front.
Especially fair trade brands, man. Like that's such an effort that I will I will make sure that everything's straight and narrow so they have the best chance of being chosen for sure. That's
Nice.
a lot of work. Yeah.
All right, so we'll get off the tangent. You guys actually took my top 2.
Oh no!
Which
really?
which if you think back, like it's no coincidence. Like those are great, great memories.
Cool.
Yeah, we're all there.
So I'm gonna say 2 things. I guess I would say just collectively the interviews, and it's more of like a reflection and thank you for people that for a new podcast just getting started. So I'll echo what you guys said. And then as far as like coolness goes, which obviously this is just a byproduct, it's not why we do it, but like to see that other people are checking it out.
Absolutely.
If you followed us on Instagram, on the Apple podcast charts, we've charted in the top 50 a couple times, which is just unbelievable if you think about it.
Yeah, man, drop some data points. Might as well share.
Well, we're DIY, right? We are it. It's just us 3. So
yeah, it's all social media, it's all word of mouth, it's all guerrilla marketing. Well,
and there's a map of the globe right behind me that I've been coloring in countries, and that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So for that stuff is really seeing people in Finland and Sweden and UK and Australia that are listening to us is really cool. Japan, it's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I guess my memory is just a collective thank you to the people that have early on taken a chance with the interviews, and then certainly the most recent interviews with Rob and Lance and Scott Russo, and then also cool like seeing some of the press, like Scott Russo. That interview was picked up by Chorus FM, which
that was cool.
You may know them by, they used to be Absolute Punk, Jason Tate's website, and they don't publish a lot of articles. So to see that on there and to have that get legs was pretty badass. A website I've been going to for almost 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes back to the Lance Mercer thing. Like you were a fan of the kind of like coinciding business aspect that like you're fanboying off of like small, like intricate parts of it. And now we're like using those platforms collectively, which is really cool. Yeah, that's amazing, man. I would agree that seeing people who like and reach out and hit us up on any of the social media platforms or post that they're listening to, all that stuff has just been really, really cool. Cause like, we're just 3 guys that grew up together that like music, and we'd always joked about doing something like this, but to put pen to paper and then to put microphones on and to have people be into it has been really badass. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're connecting with like-minded people that like the same music or are intrigued by the same elements of the music industry or whatever it may be. And that's what we like doing. That's what we've been doing for 25 years.
That's how we're friends. Why we're friends still.
Yeah.
I would say. I mean, that's a big part of our friendship.
Yeah. Twan, you just made me think of Amoeba and having Mark on. He's a busy guy. He's in LA. He owns the biggest independent record store on planet Earth. His store is relocating, and he jumped on with us, and that was our first interview. And for him to do that, it was just like, I remember being like, holy shit, we actually have to do this. And it was awesome. And he was super nice. And every time I go to get LA, which I go to LA every week, and I drive by Amoeba, I'm like, fuck, man. Like my podcast with my buddies, like we interview the guy that owns that store. That's insane. And like, it just seems like so surreal, but at the same time, like not surreal because like it's a lot of work, but it's all passion. And Twan, I really like your shout out that this is all gratitude in a very trying time for humanity that, and I'm a hippie at heart anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but there's no better time to just show gratitude. If it makes your day a little bit better, or if it makes you feel a little bit better about yourself or or lifting someone's spirits, like it's a really, really difficult time right now. And I know we don't want to get into like too deep on worldly things, but like there's just so much going on. So to share gratitude and a time of reflection of like, man, it's good to be around good people. It's good to like reflect on really fun times, because fun times are still ahead. But it just shows you that life's precious, and people to come on to our little mini podcast. We're such a mini podcast, and the fact that we're charting is like, holy crap, man! It really shows that like
very cool.
You do what you love, and you're passionate about it, and you're true to yourself, and you have something to say. That like, man, props to anyone out there that's going on a limb and just doing stuff, because this is like a huge risk for us. I mean, we're so busy. Like, Twan, you have a baby. Tone, you're getting married. Like me, I'm like in the middle of a move actually right now, amongst a trillion other things. So like we're all super busy, and we're doing this, and to have that come full circle with fan base and the talent that we've had on, like we've all highlighted interviews as like our favorite thing, just because that is full circle. That's like why we did this in the first place, because we want to talk about it. But we also want to get deeper. We want to go deeper into the weeds as to why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this because we want to talk to Mark Weinstein on like, what was your idea to like randomly throw together a record store that feels like you're in a tiny record store, but just happens to be the biggest one in the universe? Like that. I mean, how do you even do that? How does that concept go down on paper? Like,
well, he was a nerd like we were, and he went out on a limb like we did, right? And that's why we felt a kinship with him from the start. I think
for sure.
It was totally a leap of faith for him to start that tiny little record store, just like the record stores that we loved growing up out here in Maine. That's a similar situation. They're in a college town in Brunswick, Maine, opening up Almost Music. Same idea, right?
It's super organic. It's really cool. It's actually cool. It makes me very happy. Yeah,
me too. This has been definitely been a source of happiness over the last 4 months for me, just with all the dour and negativity that's gone around with the world. Like you said, Nate, this has been fun and happy, and every day something cool happens. It's like, oh man, these people checked us out, or somebody liked our tweet, or somebody liked our post, or somebody reached out to us, or so and so called back and said they'd come on. Like that, all that stuff has been awesome.
Well, yeah, actually, you guys nailed it with Mark and like the Bull Moose story, where it's like those guys were nerds, so they checked that box. They looked around and said, "No one's doing what I want to do," so they checked that box. And I feel like that's kind of us. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts, and they scratch certain itches. Like I listen to, and I'll shout out a few of them. Like I love the Joe Budden podcast because I love hip hop, but that's that's their lane. I love the Axe to Grind podcast, which is hardcore punk. And they, for the most part, stay in that lane. But that's not all my interests. And I know we're kind of taking a risk, or we're trying to conquer it all. Yeah. But over time, you know what I mean? There's at the end of the day, fast forward down the road, like everyone will be able to find an episode they like.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's the plan, right?
Yeah. Really well said, Twan. Really well said, because it's just not singular to one thing. And that's just life. And that's why we like people like Joe Rogan. It's like, nice, you can really get everything out of this. And to talk so passionately about it, and to get, I mean, I'm not a photographer. You guys aren't photographers. No. To get Lance on, for him to even accept and talk about, photography language, like slang that we don't even know. Like, oh, cool, that's what that is. I just learned that just on the spot. I didn't even know that.
We're learning too. We're learning from our guests as we go, right?
Yeah, it's mind share, it's data stream, it's
well, we learn from each other. We learn from each other. I've listened to 2 or 3 different bands that I probably would never have even thought to listen to, just from talking to you guys about maybe it was Heavy Therapy or good vibes music, or any of the stuff any of the segments that we've come up on our own, right? It's put together some music and giving me some context as to why you like them, and then maybe I'll give them a shout myself and listen to them, give them a try myself and like it too. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I got to quote one more person, and it actually circles back to two things. The quote being Eddie Vedder. I got to do another shout out. Is and I'm gonna butcher this, so it's gonna be kind of butchered, but is you can donate all the money in the world to a nonprofit organization that's helping some cause that you're very passionate about, and go broke. It's something like this. And he said, it won't matter. You'll never regret a penny that you donated. It's something like that. I have to look it up for quote. And actually, maybe I'll put it in a post because it really touched me. Because it's like, that just shows that like he in a successful band may have donated so much money to a nonprofit and had a situation where like, Epic Records or whatever wasn't paying the royalties on time, or like did an audit and found out they were getting ripped off, and like, or did he just spent lavishly and like was on his last dime, but donated so much to like some like nonprofit in Africa or something where he's like, oh shit, I actually need that money now. But he said like, you'll never regret a penny that you donated because you just felt so good about it. And that's how I feel about this podcast. It's like time is money, and we're all so busy. It's kind of living what I was saying earlier. Like we're so fucking busy. Like there's so much that we're all three collectively doing when we're not doing this, that like a lot of the times, especially recently, where I was texting you guys like, hey dude, I'm going to be off the radar for like the next 48 hours. Cause like I'm moving, painting, I'm going to be in LA today. It's like, and you guys said you're having a baby and you're getting married, Tone. And it's like, we're still doing it. So it's like very much so love for the game. It's very much like, I don't regret staying up till 2 a.m. to like get caught up on our group text or like whatever. Cause it's like, hey man, like this is like what I love and this is what we're doing. And I'll never regret a second of like losing a little bit of sleep for trying to get caught up or prepared for this, or, reaching out to some talent to bring on the show, because it's like, we're not getting paid, but it's not about the money.
No, definitely not. So. And once it stops being fun, we'll stop doing it, right? No matter the money. I would imagine if we don't like doing it anymore, we'll be like, all right, we did it. It was fun, and it wasn't fun anymore. But it's been a blast so far. So,
and the catalog is there for anyone and everyone to check out forever.
It'll be cool to like show it to your daughter when she's 15.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Check out your first 4 months or 6 months of being on this earth. This is what your dad was doing.
Were you paying attention to me? Really cool. Yeah, I did that too.
No, you were holding her the whole time.
That is really
Once
cool.
we start doing videos, you'll see Twan has been holding his baby the entire time. I'm not sure how he does it.
Twan is a multitasker. Well, multitaskers, pretty incredible.
All right, I think we should wrap this episode with a few predictions. And we'll keep it succinct. And I'll start.
Okay.
And this is going to be obvious. I predict that our interviews, we continue at this cadence. Like that's, I want to continue doing that. And I think we'll get some big names, continue to get big names, continue to piggyback on where we left off, in previous episodes. So that's it's obvious because like we love interviewing people and we find that interviewing interesting people, we really get off on. So I'm going to state the obvious and say we're going to continue doing that.
No, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. It actually holds us up to it. Like now we have to.
Now we have to do it. Yeah, good point. Yeah, because we want to make that come true.
Yeah.
All right, Nate, you got a big one that I'm going to let you have, even though I want to do it.
No, nice. I only know this because I follow this band so closely and all the members, and I've had correspondence with some of the members. So I'm just kind of putting puzzle pieces together because I don't actually have any like written documentation to prove this true. But I've just kind of like seen the flow and the history and the fallouts with members and like the coming back together with members and like just the obvious things like it's a cash grab. And I think, and also it being a 20-year anniversary for an album from this band, that this is like inevitable, that the band Head PE from Orange County, Huntington Beach in particular, will reunite, whether it be for writing music or doing a reunion tour, something in that sense, for the band Head PE and Broke, and going forward, hopefully making music collectively as the original five. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. But I follow all the members and I've actually reached out and actually had some private correspondence with at least 3 of the members on doing projects non-associated with their music or reunion, but actually business offshoots that I've pitched, which I do quite often, or did quite often, at least 4 or 5 years ago. It's like kind of like what I did as a hobby, is put together business plans and try to see who I could get for endorsers or underwriters on making it all happen. But yeah, I think that this is going to happen. I don't know. It's a prediction. And
so original 5 Head PE back together, at least for a tour for Broke.
Yeah. I want to backtrack and say original 5, hopefully, and original 4 out of 5, 99.9% sure.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
And I'm not going to name the member that wouldn't be missing, but
we won't do that to them. Yeah. But that would be, I mean, it was funny because a couple months back, I think Jared did a AMA on the new metal Reddit.
Yep.
and we were all in there asking questions, and it was awesome because he was answering us, and it was just was just. I mean, we're all like geeking out about that, and this is kind of early Patio Save days. I think it was like April.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So yeah, that was that, and he was. It sounded like he was into doing something for Broke down the road.
But I don't think anything came up from a reunion in that, did it?
Or... there were questions I think about just them getting back together as more original members, and yeah. But that, I mean, that's badass, and that's not what I thought you were gonna say. So you're leaving the other one to me?
Yeah.
Because I'm putting it out there. I'm gonna do it.
Do it.
Tom DeLonge back with the Mark and Travis at some point in the next year and a half. I could totally see that happening. Pulling the Blink guys pulling a let's get together, let's stay together for the kids, and put something back out there for us, whether it be live shows or new music. I could see that happening. I think we got to wait a little bit for this Angels and Airwaves stuff to pass because they're just putting an album out now, or music out at least. But yeah, I could totally see maybe for a one-off album or a one-off tour type of thing down the road, them getting back together in some capacity. So you'll have heard it here on July 10th, 2021. I will definitely cut this and put this out there for the world. And when that happens, just be like, yeah, see, look, we got it right again, guys.
And now, PE as well.
What's the
all of it.
What's the statute of limitations though? Because you can't leave that open like in perpetuity. It has to be a time frame, right? Next year.
So before the end of summer 2021, so within the year.
Ooh, wow.
A little bit over a year, right? That gives us to August of next year.
Wow.
Yep.
So what does Skiba do?
We'll see something. He goes and hangs out with Josh Klinghoffer.
He goes back to Alkaline Trio.
Yeah, he goes back to Alkaline Trio. Not that, I mean, the stuff they've put out with him hasn't been terrible. There's been some good songs in there, but it would just be so nice to have those guys back together doing Blink things as Blink 180, the real Blink 182, right?
Yeah, Blink Skiba is Chili Peppers Josh.
That's what I'm saying.
Good. It's good. It's just different.
It's just different.
And therefore not the best, unfortunately.
California's got some good songs on it. I like that album.
Yeah, I actually listened to it 2 days ago, and I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah. Bored to Death is awesome.
But are you throwing it on over the
not
other
like
catalog?
The other ones.
You're not.
God, no.
Yeah, well, exactly. No, good, exactly. It's just like the bands are just in a heyday when they have the magic. They have the members, they have the music, they have the timing, they have the infrastructure to like put out gold. So when it's like a replacement member, I can't even think of a band that has a replacement member where it just like ruled. Except for maybe like we were talking about Killswitch Engage with Howard. I thought that was great.
You can't think of Pearl Jam?
Huh? What do you mean?
Matt Cameron.
Oh, drummer-wise?
He wasn't their first drummer.
I'm talking about vocalist though. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Vocalist. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, no, good call because it actually this is singular to a vocalist replacement that like is either the same or better. It's really hard.
That's hard. Yeah. That doesn't happen a lot. Because they become a different band, right? I mean, they just do. And we've talked about a couple of different bands over the course of this that have maybe changed vocalists, and they just sound different. And that there's nothing wrong with that. Different sometimes is fine, but yeah, it's not the same.
So when I threw that prediction out, I was focusing on specific to the podcast.
Oh, I thought we were doing predictions. Well, give us a big prediction then, Twan.
I know. So when you guys were throwing yours out there, I was trying to think of one. I get nothing.
We'll come up with one for you for next week.
Yeah, keep thinking while I say this because I think you're right, Tone. Because take off your pants and jacket will turn 20 next year.
Next year, I think. Yeah.
Yep. And then Head PE Broke Anniversaries
next
year. Month. Yeah, next month.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it really is crazy. So
we say that a lot. I think a lot of things are crazy though.
Yeah, life's crazy. Plus, Tom came back in 2009, so it almost makes sense to just like do this like 10-year like return, 11-year, whatever it is.
So I got one. I got a prediction.
All right, perfect.
Nice.
Let's go.
So this is assuming COVID stays what it is through the next year into possibly 2022. In 2021 will be the year of the vinyl repress.
So many things.
It'll be the year of the vinyl repress because people will have to, like we've been saying all along, people have to get creative to get the fans money.
The revenue, yep.
Get the revenue. Because like that concert in the UK, like those outdoor shows, that works for like festival level bands, that's not going to work for like
some of the smaller ones.
I don't know, like Citizen. Take Citizen. Like, what are they going to do? I mean, I assume they have jobs, but they go home to jobs. If they don't, maybe touring. Like, they open for Manchester Orchestra. Well, I guess they could piggyback off a band like that. And
but that's not going to get them through if it's small venues, small amount of people, not a lot of money coming in, right? They need something else, some other revenue stream.
So it's 2021, Party of Slave, you heard it first, the year of the repress.
I like it.
So like even more, you're saying like something that's even like just 5 years old and gets a repress that maybe already had a press? Or are you just going to see things that weren't pressed beforehand?
I know. I was thinking about how we'd measure this prediction. I think it's the deep cut. I think it's so. What's the Counting Crows album that you mentioned? That
a Hard Candy would be one. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a couple, but Hard Candy doesn't even have a press.
Hey, Adam from Counting Crows. Here's your prediction. Hard Candy is getting repressed in 2021. I'd
like that. I'd be on board with that.
Yeah, if there's no like, I know we were talking about Greg with Zebrahead about this, like in terms of why they haven't released Waste of Mind or Play Band of the Year on Wax, because I think there would be a pretty rabid diehard fan base that would jump all over that and even sell it out if it was a limited release. Yeah, for sure. So I just feel like it's money on the table. The only thing I can think of it being held back is some kind of rights to the music, where it can't.
So that's what Twan's saying is that's all going to get thrown out the window and everybody's just going to, let's just press shit so we can make some money.
Oh, even labels that are going public because they need money so bad. What was the label that went public that needed money so bad?
I don't.
We talked about it a couple episodes ago.
The throwback,
I can't remember.
But think about it, like it's a perfect storm for this to happen because I think in 2019 was the first year vinyl outsold CDs, right?
Yep.
In a long time, right? And 20-something, 25, 30 years.
And years and years. And obviously, like, you're still going to get the... It goes back to that joke I made a few weeks ago. Like, most vinyl heads don't listen to the wax. They don't listen to it. So it's not going to take away from the streams. It's not.
Yeah, it's just extra cash.
It's extra cash.
It's easy to just stream too, right? We all have a smart speaker somewhere or whatever, and you can just listen to music that way. I will occasionally, like we do on Sundays, grab the record, throw it on, listen to it, but it doesn't happen a lot. Some of them I don't want to open because they're worth money.
Mm-hmm.
So brand new repress is your favorite weapon. Limited run. I know they're another conversation for another day, but I'm thinking about cult following. They repressed your favorite weapon, 5,000 pieces, $100. They could get it.
Mm-hmm. Probably, yeah. If it was the right type of pressing, and absolutely.
Yeah, gatefold, all that.
Here's why I know it'll work, at least for me personally, is you guys are like in the group text, nerdery group text, Patio Slave group text, sending me photos of like vinyls that you're ordering and stuff. And I just like, I don't know why, but I just like don't spend any money on like anything I don't need to lately. I just kind of, and it's not even because I have to, I don't know. I've become very non-materialistic, and it's not to call you guys out because nerdery is like very appropriate. Like it doesn't matter. Like trust me, the amount of money I actually have spent on nerdery is enough for a down payment on a pretty expensive house.
Glad you said that because I was going to call you out.
Yeah. But like if I'm going to go back to Zebrahead, if Zebrahead put out Waste of Mind on 100 unit limited release vinyl press, I would actually buy it. And I actually am so strict on what I spend on money, but I would like be pre-ordered on that shit. So
I'd want that one too.
It's just like money I wouldn't spend, but like, oh shit, okay, this I will actually buy.
Yep.
So the amount of bands that like, or albums that I can just like start dreaming up right now that like are not on wax, that all of a sudden came out with your prediction, Twan, and just like, yeah, we're gonna do this. I mean, I could come up with like 60 artists that I would drop money on, and like I'm stingy with my money, so I was like, fuck, man, all of a sudden I have to like buy all this stuff now.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all got super long lists of things that we wish. I mean, I could do that for days, just looking through what I already own on either CD or have digitally, and be like, I wish I had that on wax, and my living room would be overflowed.
Korashi.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. Yeah. No, that's a good one, Twan. I like that. That's one we can quantify that one for sure.
Yeah, I like that one a lot too. Especially because if 2021 live music does come back as slated by Live Nation, Ticketmaster, all these big time promoters, the ones that are like saying it's going to happen. And like, I think we said with Herd Immunity Fest, like they're the ones that, if anyone, unfortunately, because we shit on them so much, Live Nation has a little more insight internally than anyone to like say that, hey, if they're going to say these shows are on, they're not going to pay the insurance fees to like have to reschedule a third time, or second time.
Yeah.
So it must be at least planned to happen at this moment. So therefore, yeah, merchandising that goes along with that is inevitable. It's going to be an upsell regardless.
Yeah. Yep. There'll be stuff for sure when it comes to that. So
yeah, cash grab. 360 deals will be fucking going crazy. Oh, you signed up with us for merchandising, touring. Yeah, dude, they're going to recoup so much for lost revenue on a 360 deal.
And we're going to be the suckers that have to back up the truck. Damn it. As long as I still have a job. Yeah, I think that's good. I think we wrap there, guys.
Yeah.
So hit us up on the socials at Podioslave on Twitter and Instagram. Check out the YouTube page. I've been throwing up something we've called the Podioslave Archives, and there'll be more added to that. Some old concert videos that we have floating around that are in decent quality and sound good. I threw a couple up this past week. One of the Flaming Lips doing a Pink Floyd song, one of Thrice doing Image of the Invisible from their farewell show. I say that in air quotes. So yeah, there's some cool stuff there too that we're adding to the YouTube page every week. Check that out too. And then a playlist will come of this. There's a lot of bands that we mentioned this week. There'll be a playlist coming this weekend.
Yeah, and we'll be adding to that Podioslave concert archive. I get a ton of stuff. Like I get stuff dating back to probably 2003 that I could pull from the archive. So this will be fun.
I can't wait,
nice.
man. I haven't seen some of the stuff you guys have. I know what I have, but I'm excited to pour through what you guys have.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't have as much as you guys. I think Swan you probably have the most. And you just dated something so far back that I know that I don't have stuff that far
I don't
back.
have stuff that far back.
Yeah, the challenge is getting it off the medium that it's on.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Cool. Well, yeah, that about wraps it. Peace, podheads.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Cheers, everyone.